work first. Is this okay? Too loud? Too annoying? All right, good. So, this feels really loud, but that's okay. Ron kind of stole the first intro that I had for today, which is absolutely okay. So I'll just go ahead, and you might hear some repeating, and that's fine too. I was looking around, I was here for Christmas Eve service along with this one, and I was looking around, and I realized that a lot of the people that I associate with Gateway don't come here anymore. There's a lot of people that I've known over the years, and when I come to church now, I only talk to the same 5 people every Sunday, and that's probably Tony Darnell, the Johnsons, Tracy Blake, the Allens. There's very few that I can name that I still know very well anymore. And that's partially my fault because I moved away a year ago. I thought I was too cool for this church, honestly. I thought I was young. I needed another church with other like-minded young people that really got me. And I'd grown up here and kind of felt like if I stayed here, I would stay the same. And so I moved on and stopped coming back as frequently. And then when I did come back, I didn't put much time into getting to know anybody else. I only talk to the people who come and talk to me specifically. And I guess the less you come someplace, the less people really come to talk to you. So unless it's been somebody that sort of checks in on me pretty frequently, I don't pay any mind to them. And so when I'm here now, it's like, wow, I don't know anybody, and that's my fault. But it's also Clarksville's fault. It's not just my fault. Clarksville is Clarksville, and if you know Clarksville, it's a military town, which means every 2 years, anybody that I loved here or knew here comes and goes with deployments and with new stations. And so there's a lot of faces that I associate with Gateway that just don't exist anymore, not because they wanted to leave, but because they had to leave. And it's not only Clarksville's fault, it's also people's fault. Because people are people, and no matter where you go or what time it is, people are always going to change and want something different. So there's people that have come to Gateway that I associate with Gateway that have grown up much like myself and decided, I need something new, I need something different, and Gateway's not fulfilling my needs anymore, so I'm going to move to a new church. And it's not anything bad or mean, but people have come and gone, and through my own sort of distance, through Clarksville being Clarksville, and through people being people, I just don't know any of you anymore. So it's probably weird that I'm here talking to you, because I have to assume that if I only know less than half of you, that means that more than half of you have no idea who I am, aside from that little introduction that Ron Allen just gave you. And so... Did I say Ron Allen? Oh my goodness, that's ridiculous. I know. See, that's how good I know people here, is that I get my Rons confused. So I'm so sorry, Ron Victor and Ron Allen, my bad. But just like Ron Victor was saying, my name is Sidney Witt, and that's kind of an important name, I guess, if you come here frequently, because I am the daughter of Scott Witt and Lynn Witt, and if you're new here, that's who normally runs the show every Sunday. Not to say that other people don't help, but they're a pretty big deal here, and they are normally serving the role as preacher man and, what would you call that, music leader? I think so, serving that kind of role. And so that's who I am, and I guess that's why I'm important and why I'm talking to you today. And it's also maybe important that this year I decided to move to Honduras. I guess that's of particular interest to all of you. I thought I would take a year off and move to Honduras and teach 3rd grade at a Christian bilingual school. Am I a teacher? That's a really good question. I'm not specifically a teacher. I graduated as a nurse in 2012, and I did that for about 2 years, but I was starting to feel a little bit stuck, and since I was still young and youthful, I wanted to travel before I was old and crusty. No offense if that's you, but I wanted to get out and sort of do my own thing, and the opportunity presented itself for me to go to Honduras, and so I said, I'll take it. And thankfully, the school that I work at is called Honors Academy, And in order to be a teacher there, you don't necessarily have to have an education in education, which works out really well for me because I don't have that. But I thought that that would be okay because I went to 3rd grade once. So I was there, I remember it, and I think they just learned multiplication. I can handle it. And so I spent some time as I was preparing to be a teacher reading books. And so I read all about whole brain teaching, know all about it. I read all about the cafe menu, the Daily 5, the Essential 55. Any book that I thought that I needed to know about teaching, I had it. So I mean, teaching's not going to be that hard, right? And when I was telling Sharon Allen, I think I got your last name right, very nice. I was telling Sharon about that before I was leaving. She's like, so what are you doing again? And I was like, I'm teaching. She's like, do you have any experience in that? And I said, well, no, but I don't think I need it. And now I know that I was really wrong. But that's okay. And so after that whole little spiel, you might be thinking one of a couple things about me. You might be thinking, and I don't know if there's a slide up there, but there might be. No, it's about to be up there if it's not. You might be thinking, wow, what a saint. She is such a cute girl. She's giving preacher kids a good name, going off, serving the mission, living in Honduras, sacrificing things that are in America to instill love and knowledge into the minds of young Honduran children. And I can't wait for her to talk to me about how I can get involved, how I can send her money, what she's been doing, and I want to hear a heartwarming story about Honduras. Or you could be thinking this, and I'm sorry if that's offensive, but you could be thinking that this girl's crazy, because you and I both heard that I have a degree in nursing, I had a really good job. Maybe you think I'm just the same as every other lazy 20-something that's non-committal, who can't stick with her job. Maybe I should have sucked it up. Maybe I should have stayed in nursing. Maybe you think I'm running away from something. And maybe I should stop flitting around the world and get a real job and grow up. You could be thinking that. You could be thinking absolutely none of those things. But no matter what you're thinking about me, I can guarantee it's not right. Because I haven't told you very much about myself, and I haven't talked to a lot of you in a really long time. And it's sort of the mark of my generation that no matter what's going on in my life, I can paint it however I want to. I can tell you a little bit about what's happening in my life in about 6 minutes, just like I did. I can show you really cute pictures of what's going on. I can let you think that my life is awesome, and I can mask everything by saying a little and posting a lot of thoughtful artistic pictures. And I'm not just talking about Facebook, although that's the first thing that comes to my mind. And I'm not just talking about Instagram, but everybody puts on a show. Nobody really wants to talk about what they're thinking and what they're feeling. When I run into people, like just even today, if they ask how I'm doing, how's Honduras, I want to tell them, like, it's good, it's great, everything's going fine. Because nobody really wants to talk about bad things, and nobody wants to be a Debbie Downer, and I'm guilty of that more than anybody. But you see everybody else online, I'll just use that because we're all familiar. You see everybody else online, and their lives look awesome. And they hang out with cool people, and they look cute all of the time, and you're like, dude, I think I'm the only screwed up person that ever existed in this entire world. And instead of dealing with that feeling, instead of being honest about it, you choke it down, and I choke it down with wine and cookies, and you put it away, and you tuck it somewhere where nobody sees it, and instead of dealing with it, you post a pretty picture of yourself, thoughtfully looking at nature. And you're in a really cool place, like the mountains, and you hashtag it, Life in Honduras. And everybody who sees it is like, wow, man, that's cool. Like, is Honduras cold? She's wearing a hat. Her hair looks really good. Like, that mountain's beautiful. I bet she's doing really great for herself. Man, I wish I was traveling. Because that's what you want people to see of yourself. You don't want them to know, like, why you're there or what you're doing. And I don't really know what I was supposed to talk about today. I assume that I was supposed to talk about how you could get involved with Honduras, and that would make sense. But I don't feel comfortable talking about those things until I tell you a little bit about why I'm even in Honduras for the first place. And in order for you to understand how Honduras has been impactful in my life, I think you need to know a little bit more about my life than what I would share normally to the general public. So let me regroup my thoughts here. Thinking back to about a year ago, I'm trying to figure out my cues so my mom doesn't get confused, but about a year ago, around Christmas time, I can't say for sure, was some of the crappiest times I've ever felt, and it's not because anything specifically was wrong with me. Life was good, I had a job, I had friends, I had a boyfriend, like things were fine, Facebook fine, or like small talk fine, but like I just felt screwed up. I was working night shift, and anyone who knows me knows that I like to be up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, I'm a day person, I love the day, and here I was working this stressful job, awake during the part when I was least functional, sleeping during the part that I loved the most, and I spent like my weeks in this weird, I don't know if it was like sleepwalking state, but I would spend my days sort of like crying till I went to sleep, and I'd fall asleep, and then I'd wake up, and it'd be dark, and I'd be like, oh, I gotta go to work again. And that's not particularly bad, but I just was feeling very alone. I moved to Nashville because I wanted to be by myself and experience life on my own. But with that whole independence that I wanted also comes the fact that you're like independent, you're by yourself. And nobody's really there to say, Sidney, you're acting a little weird, or haven't seen you awake in a while, and have you put on real clothes in a week? I mean, really. Nobody was there to sort of click me out of it. And I was trying to figure out ways to describe to you how I was feeling at this time, and I found a journal entry that I wrote to myself. And I never journal, except for when I'm feeling really despondent, because somebody told me that you're supposed to journal through your feelings and you'll feel a lot better. But I only reserve that for emergency times, because I'm a non-committal 20-something and I would never keep a full journal every day of my life. So let me share with you a page of my journal. This was from about a year ago, and I'm sorry if this is lengthy, but I tried to shorten it up. I have desires within myself that are constantly overrunning my thoughts. I can't make a list of valid reasons why my heart longs to take a traveling escape. Any sentiment about finding myself seems cheesy, even though I secretly hope that it'll happen. I long to do something for myself. I may not have very clear and distinct goals at this point, but I know a few things that cause me to feel great joy. And maybe through that simple pursuit, something bigger will be revealed to me. I thrive on hearing and learning about other people's passions, but have failed to be passionate about much of anything in my own life. This fact about myself has been ever present in my thoughts since interacting with Todd, a person who loves his friends, his work, and his pastimes. His pursuit of being the best that he can be and pursuing the things he wants relentlessly. Where is my passion anyways? I haven't wanted to admit my lack of passion, but it's something that becomes increasingly more difficult to hide. I would describe my days as lazy, full of unproductive worry and thought. I'm not the finished product I'd like to be. I know I'm capable of much more. In the times I'm lacking passion, it's easy for me to create a relationship and become passionate about their loves and interests. It's easier to be with somebody who already has things figured out instead of worrying and correcting my increasing list of problems. Where is my ability to confidently know what I want and desire? Deep down in my core, I know there is more to this life and that worries won't change a single bit of it. Even though I often claim to know truths about what's really important, I don't genuinely believe them. I started crying in most of the church services I attend, not because I feel so convicted by God, mostly because I miss when the story of Jesus brought me so much comfort. It reminds me of home, where I never took this long and tiresome look at establishing myself as an individual. I want to be happy, passionate, know God, know myself, gain knowledge, or at least be able to retain what I've learned for starters. I feel like a person of good intentions with a seemingly put together life, but it feels like a sham. And I really wasn't going to share that, but I reread it this week, and I was like, well, that just perfectly sums up what I was feeling, which was crummy. And I don't know if it's a normal 20-something thing or a normal growing up thing, but I felt confused. And I don't know if I'm realizing it now or I realized it then, but instead of dealing with being confused or dealing with my feelings, I date people that are older, which I thought they were more attractive, but it's not true. I think I desired their stability. They knew what they wanted, and they sort of had clear mindset and clear goals. And I thought by hanging around somebody older and wiser than I, it would eventually unconfuse me. And it doesn't really happen that way because only I can do that. So I spent my days sort of investing in people and other people's pastimes, and it didn't help me. And I realized that I was getting really unproductive because I wouldn't leave my house. I was just eating saltine crackers and butter. I wasn't getting out of my pajamas. Like, things were wrong. And finally, I started calling some people, and I called 2 friends. And one friend was Ariana, and if you know her, she's an awesome gal. And she told me, like, it's okay if you feel that way. That's fine. What's not okay is that you're just sitting there and you're blubbering about it. You need to go, and you need to get involved with something, with someone, find something you're interested in, and through that, you'll find the relationships that you're looking for. Nobody needs to do this alone, and neither do you, so get off your butt, get out of your house, and start making life happen. I was like, okay. And I called one other friend, and he was my friend Leon that I'd gone to Honduras with some years ago. And he said to me, you're too young to be feeling that way. Like, you're smart, you got things going for you, you have a job. If you don't like your job, like, awesome, then change it. Whatever you need to change, then just change it because you're too young to be worried. And he was like, in fact, I have this gig at a school that I go to in Honduras, and it's like a place where I feel relaxed, I feel like I can think clearer there, I feel like it might be a good fit for you. Why don't you just take a break from everything and go do that? I think they're short on teachers. And I was like, yeah. Maybe. I was like, talk to your people and have them talk to me and we'll see if that's a good fit. But I hung up, and from there I did sort of like, I stopped feeling as bad for myself. I just accepted that I was confused, and then I moved forward. I got a roommate, which was the best thing that I could have done, because she made sure that I ate normal and was dressing normal and was actually functioning in some sort of social way. And she probably didn't mean to do that, but just having another person there to keep me accountable was very helpful to me. And things started to get a little bit better, and I started looking at things that I could change in my life, and I thought, well, maybe the thing that's causing me the most stress right now is this job that I have. So I started looking for new jobs, and my mom at the same time had sent me this little link on Facebook, and it was like a link to a camp. And she was like, hey, they're looking for nurses. It was a camp that sort of dealt with kids with medical issues. And she was like, I think if you don't like what you're doing right now, maybe you should try this out. Like, maybe it's not nursing, maybe it's just your job. Try it out. And I was like, awesome, cool. I'll apply to camp. And I did apply to camp, not to be a nurse. I applied to be a counselor, because I was like, man, dude, nursing, I don't know. I'm really burnt out on it. I don't want to do it. I'm going to go be a counselor at camp. I'm going to stalk the nurses. If they look like they're doing cool stuff, then maybe I'll go and be a nurse another day. Maybe. But I need a break. And so I applied for these counselor jobs at these camps. And wouldn't you know it, the only people that called me back was the nursing staff once they saw that I was qualified for it. And I just sort of went through the interview process, and I sort of made it known, like, I don't work with kids. I love kids. I've done daycare, but I don't have any experience in it. And they're like, it's okay. You're going to be good. Maybe you just haven't tried it before. You're going to be awesome. We're excited to have you. And so I found myself prepping for that. And a week after I accepted a camp job, I got a call from Honduras. Not a call, an email, and it was like, we would love to have you. Just plan on being here in August. I was like, okay, that was easy. Cool. So then I had 2 engagements booked, and as soon as I had that sort of change in my mind, my attitude got better, because I saw an end to my job, I saw an end to like my hard times, and I had something to be excited about. So that way when I went out with friends, I wasn't like, oh, my life sucks. I could actually talk about like, hey, I'm going to camp. Hey, I'm going to Honduras. I'm doing cool things. It's great. And it was great. Wrapped everything up in Nashville, left everything on a really good note, sort of went to camp very hopeful, hoping that I would find this like thing in nursing that I really, really liked. But I got there and the people were wonderful, the environment was wonderful, everything was beautiful, but my heart wasn't in nursing, and I felt just as flustered as I ever did, sort of operating in that nursing role. I really liked what the counselors were doing, like I thought that I would, and I really liked all the people that I was meeting, but I just wasn't excited about being a nurse. And that camp sort of came and went, and afterwards I had been out of contact with Honduras, and so I was sort of like back in Nashville trying to figure out, well, what do I do next? I went to camp, thought it was going to be awesome. It was sort of awesome, but I still don't like nursing. I don't really want to go apply for a nursing job, but that seems to be all that I'm capable of right now. I have this thing in Honduras, maybe, I don't know. They haven't got back to me, and I sort of was frantically trying to decide what I needed to do with my life. And on a last-ditch effort, I emailed Honduras, and I said, it's urgent. I was like, I need to know if you want me to come or not. And this was like a week before school started. And they finally answered me, maybe like 3 days before classes actually started. They're like, yeah, of course, we want you here. You just go buy your ticket and it'll be fine. And I didn't know much about the program. If you talked to me, like I didn't know what kind of class I was going to get, what grade I was going to teach, anything about it. But I didn't know what else to do either, because I had tried at this point 2 different nursing jobs, and maybe I didn't stick with it long enough. I don't know. But I knew that I wasn't happy, and as soon as I was thinking about applying for new nursing jobs, I felt the anxiety of it all. And so I didn't know what to do, and since the teaching opportunity was available, I sort of went. And I went in a really bad attitude. I kind of felt, I don't know, like worthless. They sort of introduced me, like, hey, this is Sidney, she's a nurse. And I was like, no, I'm not. Like, I am a little bit, but I'm a teacher, and I'm just like you guys. And I'm working with a whole bunch of people that are super young, and I wanted to talk to them about how I'd been feeling over the past year, and I was like, they're not gonna get it. And so I kind of got involved with just decorating my classroom, doing my own thing, being kind of a recluse, and that was okay, and I did that for about a month of being there. And so now I get to talk to you about Honduras. That was me before Honduras. Here I am at Honduras, and I work at this little school called the Honors Academy, but I live in this huge house outside of the capital of Honduras. And I live with 6 other teachers that are equally uneducated educators, but we make this weird, loving, sort of dysfunctional family, and we live on the top floor of this really big house. And in the second floor, there's 2 people, and they're full-time missionaries, and their names are Pete and Tyann. And they are the sweet older couple that are the visionaries of everything that I do here. They sort of came while they were younger, in their 30s, with their little family, and they wanted to start an orphanage, they wanted to start a school, they've started churches, they've started prison ministries. They do everything that I'm involved with, they started. And they live on the second floor of this big house. And it's a big house, so there's tons of other rooms available too. And those rooms are made for missions teams that come in and out all throughout the year. And they do different things, from food ministries to medical missions to prison ministries, you name it, they do it. And they come in and out, and I share a house with all of these people. And one of the first mission teams came through, and I was still being grumpy, I wasn't out of that yet. But this mission team was like this heavy-set mission team from the south, and they had really good desserts. And so they would go shopping at our equivalent of Sam's Club. They'll understand, it's okay. They would go shopping at Price Mart, which is like Sam's Club, and they would load up on cake and on Snickers bars and on ice cream, and they had way better food than what I was eating upstairs. And so I didn't want to talk to them. I didn't want to hang out with them. I'm still hanging out with myself, but I would creep down at dessert time. And I would make small talk with them just so I could get a piece of cake that I really wanted. Because I know I look skinny, but I put away some cookies. So one day, it was like halfway through the week, I'm sneaking desserts. And it winds me up at this table with 5 other people. And I'm with 3 of the younger girls that I haven't put much thought into yet because they're like 18, 19. I don't care. And then I'm with this guy who's pretty cool. I don't think a picture's up of him yet. Anyways, no, you don't have to. It's cool. His name's Charles. And he was this laid-back, sort of sarcastic guy. I didn't really know why he was on a mission trip. It didn't make sense to me, but he was somebody that was funny. And so I actually would stay a little bit longer than dessert just to shoot the bull with him because he understood me more than like the teeny boppers that I was sitting with. That's what I thought. So just roll with me for a second. This is a picture of him if my mom has it, so that way you can appreciate his sense of humor. This is him and his new wife, and they just got a baby or announced the birth of their baby. And so this was kind of their birthing announcement. And I thought it was hilarious, and I just thought he was a laid-back, cool dude. So I'm hanging out, eating dessert, and out of nowhere he asked this question, "What brought you here?" And he was kind of getting at, like, why are you guys in Honduras? What's your story? What are you doing? And I was like, oh man, I don't want to answer that. I don't have anything good to say. Like, I just came here for dessert. Thank you very much. But I couldn't get out of it because I was in a kitchen with just these 5 people. It would have been awkward, and I would have never been able to steal dessert again. So here I am sitting, and I wasn't going to answer first, if at all, if I could help it. So I let these other girls go. And the first person to go, I don't know who it was specifically, we'll say it was Carly. And she's this young girl from Texas, and she sort of shares that when she was in high school, she was dating somebody for a really long time. And that relationship wasn't very healthy. It kind of went south. And when it went south, her mom suggested, like, hey, you need to get out of here. You need to put pieces of your life back together. Why don't you go do something for yourself? And that led her to Honduras, where she was then sort of able to establish herself as an individual. And she was like, man, God sent me to Honduras because he knew that I needed to put my life back together. And I'm also here because I love children and I want to do God's work for the children that I'm ministering to here. I was like, cool, cool. She shares. And then her best friend, Gabby, shares. And Gabby shares something along the lines of, well, you know, I was going to do college. And she's about 19. She's like, I started off going to college, and I went to a school abroad. And it was a Christian school, but I wasn't living my life the way that I thought I was supposed to be living it. And I felt God calling me back to a time in my life where I really felt closest to him. And the only time I could think of was when I was here in Honduras on a mission trip. So I had no question in my mind. I had to go back to Honduras. God told me that that's where I needed to be. And so here I am. I've been here for 2 years. I was like, cool, good answer. And then the last girl goes, and her name is Blair, and she's a sweet girl from Alabama. And she's sharing how she always knew that God had it on her heart to do missions work. And this was just, her church had an affiliation with this ministry, set her up with an internship, and she's just so happy to love on others and share the word of God. And then it gets to me, and I'm this cynical, sarcastic grump that hasn't talked to anybody before. And I started to spew off some sort of sarcastic remark to, like, get it off of me, and we'll talk about something else. And so they're like, so, Sidney, what brought you here? What's your story? And I'm like, well, I was born in 1990 in Cincinnati, and sort of gave them like a rough spiel of my life. And they're like, no, really, we want to know what you're all about. I was like, okay, I'll tell you. And I start to tell them about the story of my life, about how I was feeling really broken and really let down by a lot of things, and how I thought I was going to be a really good nurse, and how it didn't pan out the way that I thought, and how I'm feeling really confused, and how I don't understand how these other 3 girls that are at the table had God tell them to come here, because I don't know what that means. What's it mean to have God talk to you? I'm a preacher's kid. Shouldn't I know if God talked to you? I don't know about it. What are they talking about? And I sort of said it more directly to Charles than I did to the other girls, because I thought, like, whoa, what are you guys saying? Are you just saying it because you have to say it, or are you saying it because it's real? I don't know. And so I said it to Charles, and I was like, so what's it mean? What's it mean to have God tell you to do something? Because I don't feel like God brought me here. I feel like I'm here because I have nowhere else to go, and I don't know why I'm here. And he looked at me and he was like, it's okay if you don't know why you're here. And it's okay if you don't understand why God talks to them. Maybe he talks to you and you just don't know that yet. And I was like, okay, so you think God talks to us too. That's great. You're crazy. But I was like, so, okay, did you always know God talked to you? Tell me your story. Why are you here? And he started telling me his story. And his story is started a while ago, and he was talking about, like, when he was in high school, he hung out with a really rough group of people, and they were really heavy into drugs. And instead of just stopping where normal high schoolers will stop, they kept at it through their 20s. And he sort of just got involved with a wrong crowd, and his friends were sort of dying from overdoses, or his friends would get caught up in sort of fights, and they would get shot and killed. And he said he had this vision from God that told him that he was made for more. He was made for better than what he was living. And I stopped him and I said, what do you mean you had a vision from God? Like, I don't understand. And he said, that's good that you stopped me. I don't know if at that point in my life I would have said that it was God. At that point in my life, I kind of thought that it was just like a thought in my head. That I needed to get my life together. But that thought then led me to asking some questions to some really important people, which led me to church, which led me to then see, now that I'm a Christian, that maybe that was God pulling me out of that thing. And so I say that God pulled me out of it. But what it started out as is a thought. And I was like, well, I could maybe get behind that. And but it didn't make sense. And he was like, maybe you're here for a reason and you just don't know what that reason is yet. And I think it's good that you're here and you're able to say that you think these girls are full of bull. And I think it's good that you're angry, and I think it's good that you're starting to ask questions. But I can tell you're smart, and I can tell you for certain, because I know that you're here for a purpose. And I hope that you keep continuing to ask questions and you keep figuring out what that purpose is. And he told me to go and to think about it. And I think since that conversation, I've kind of gone and I've thought about it. And he's right. Like, it sounds crazy to me, I guess, and maybe to some of you. This whole God thing does sound crazy. And I'm only saying that from a place of, like, I've grown up with it, it all sounds great, it all sounds wonderful, but sometimes I feel really crummy and it just doesn't help. Or sometimes I feel like nobody hears me and I'm praying to somebody but I don't know, and why does he talk to some people but he doesn't talk to me? I have to recoup myself. Sometimes it feels like a load of baloney, but I think out of the frustration that I felt with it, out of feeling really confused, out of asking the right questions to the right people, out of this place of, like, I don't understand, but will you explain it to me? I've been able to find out a little bit more. And the more I've sort of talked about how much I've doubted things, the more people have opened up to me. And they're like, dude, it's okay. Like, you're 20. It's fine. God talks to you, but it might be in, like, different small ways. Maybe you're here to teach kids. Maybe you are. But maybe you're here just so you can learn to be comfortable with yourself. Maybe you're here just so you can be in a place where you can ask bigger questions that you've been too scared to ask all of your life. And I think that's probably what Honduras has been to me more than anything. It's been a place where I can sort of go and be in an environment with a lot of people that love me and that love God. And I can ask them questions that for whatever reason I don't ask my dad, which seems bizarre because he's a good source of information, but I just don't. It's been a good place for me to be confident in myself and to also be encouraged by other people and to ask big questions, because you don't really learn anything until you start asking questions, I think. If you're coming here looking for answers, my dad can't give them to you, and I can't give them to you. It takes you being really frustrated with your life circumstance and starting to figure out like what needs to change in your life that actually leads to bigger and better change. And so, I don't know, my advice, I guess, or what I really came to talk about today is that if you're feeling confused, if you're feeling like things don't make sense, like that's totally okay. And I don't know if I'm just talking to a 20-something here or I'm talking to somebody who's older and wiser than me. But what's not okay is if you just stay in that confused spot. It's not okay for you to just sit here and not have any answers and expect me to fix it or expect my dad to fix it or someone else that's wiser than you. You need to actively be asking questions about how you can make your life a lot better. And whether that's changing your work environment, whether that's changing a group of friends you run around with, whether it's hanging out with people that are wiser but asking more thoughtful questions, I don't know what it is. But until you really want that answer, I don't think you're going to find it. And so those are the things that Honduras has been for me. It's been that place where I can ask questions. And I don't know why I'm in Honduras yet. I hope to figure that out. And I don't know why I'm specifically here today. I hope to figure that out too. I kind of had a thought that I wanted to do this, which then I sort of rethought, but then it was too late. But here I am, and I don't know if I'm here because somebody needed to hear what I had to say, or maybe I'm just here because I've been too scared to say what's on my mind, and this is a good venue for me to come and publicly talk about things that go on in my brain. And maybe it's good just for that. And maybe it doesn't have to be a big thing that God does in your life, and maybe it's just a little thing, but maybe it'll be a bigger thing later on down the road. And just be open to that possibility and be open to God, because it's easy to get cynical. It's easy to think you're the only screwed up person in the world, but you're not. We're all pretty equally screwed up, whether we want to admit it or not. And my brother gave a wonderful sermon 2 years ago, and it's my favorite one that I've ever heard. But he got some complaints on it, and his biggest complaint came from not throwing any Bible verses into it. And so I was frantically looking around for Bible verses to throw into this sermon. I was like, oh man, I should read my Bible more so that way I know what to put in here. And I was thinking about all the verses that I did know, and I thought back to a time, actually many times, through my elementary and high school and middle school career. My dad made me learn the Sermon on the Mount, and I hated him for that. Just let it be known. Because every morning for 30 minutes I'd have to recite Matthew 5, 6, and 7, and it was lame, wasn't it? Luke might not have thought it was as lame as I did, but I hated it. And but it just so happens that even though I hated it, I remember a lot of it, and now that I've been thinking about verses I know, I thought back to the ones that I did know, and I thought about Matthew 6, and I sort of had some verses in my head that I was going to talk about that loosely had to do with what I was talking about. I thought I could maybe squeeze some meaning out of it. But right next to the verses I was thinking about, another one popped up. And call it luck, call it God. I don't know what I want to call it yet. But this is the verse out of Matthew. It's Matthew 7, 7, and 8. And let me see if I can find it in here so I can read it for you. It's up there as well. And it says, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives. He who seeks finds, and to him who knocks, the door will be opened. Now when I read that as a younger kid, I thought that was some bogus Christian stuff. Like, oh, well, if I love God and I want a pony, I'll just ask for it and I'll get it. Not that I ever wanted a pony, but I think maybe that's what a lot of people think about that verse, is that if you believe in him this amount, then whatever you want or whatever you desire is going to come from that. And when I saw this verse and was thinking about the stuff I was talking about, I was like, maybe that's not what that means at all. maybe it's saying, like, start asking questions. So ask and it will be given to you. Like, dude, no one's going to tell you what's going on with your life if you're not asking them questions about it. No one's going to explain God to you if you're not asking the right questions. And so maybe the first step of receiving is being comfortable enough with yourself to be vulnerable, to be humble, to not be so stuck on yourself, and to ask. And let people know that you really don't have it all together. Let people know that you're not well put together. And even if you're asking questions and it gives away some fatal flaw of yours, then that's okay, because I don't feel like you can figure out anything until you're comfortable asking, until you're fed up with your life and you want to ask more important and relevant questions. And so that's the verse mostly to myself today. So if I'm confused, if I'm feeling alone, if I'm feeling crazy, maybe I should start asking better questions. And maybe I should be seeking solutions to my problems instead of just wallowing in self-pity, which I would normally prefer to do. And it's my prayer and my hope, maybe for myself, but possibly for you, that one day, years from now, my old wizened heart will look back on this like confused mess that I am and smile. And not because this confusing time is super exciting or fun, but maybe I'll smile because I'll know that it took me being really confused and not knowing what was going on for me to start asking questions. And maybe my confusion is my catalyst for change. And so I hope that it's that for myself, and I hope that it's that for you. So thank you.
Get ready to play here. Everybody will just join me in prayer. Thank you, Sid. It's all right. Wasn't sure what was in it. God knows, all right? Even if we don't understand, He does. So let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this time we've had to come and spend with other like-minded individuals, other Christians, brothers and sisters in you. And I pray that we can learn from Sidney's testimony. Maybe we don't know what we're doing. Maybe we have no idea what we're doing, but you've got a plan for us. And maybe we may not find it here in our earthly pursuits, but you're guiding us. And if we'll just let go and let you take over, it'll all become clear. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.